seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, trusting that everything else will be added according to his perfect will. When you place God first, you change the direction of your entire day. Instead of walking in fear, you begin walking in faith. Instead of expecting disappointment, you begin expecting divine appointments. Instead of believing that nothing will change, you begin trusting that God is already working behind the scenes. God's favor is not something you earn through human effort alone. It is a gift flowing from his grace toward those who trust him with sincere hearts. His favor opens doors that no person can shut. His favor provides wisdom when decisions seem impossible. His favor strengthens you when your own strength has reached its limit. His favor brings peace that cannot be explained by human understanding. Even when others overlook you, God sees you. Even when people reject you, God has already accepted you through his love. Even when the world tells you that you are not enough, God reminds you that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. There will always be voices trying to convince you that your future is limited by your past. They will remind you of failures, disappointments, mistakes, and missed opportunities. The enemy delights in keeping people chained to yesterday because he knows that a believer who embraces God's promises becomes unstoppable. But God's forgiveness is greater than your failures. His mercy is greater than your guilt. His grace is greater than your weaknesses. You are not defined by the worst chapter of your life. You are defined by the God who has written your name in his heart and continues to call you his beloved. Perhaps you have been praying for something that has not yet happened. Maybe you have waited longer than you expected. There are moments when waiting becomes difficult. The silence can seem overwhelming. Yet God's delays are never God's denials. He sees the entire picture while we see only one small part. His timing is always perfect. The seed planted beneath the soil does not appear to be growing, but beneath the surface life is developing. In the same way, God may be working in ways your eyes cannot yet see. Every prayer offered in faith is heard. Every tear shed before him is remembered. Every act of obedience matters. Never mistake God's silence for his absence. As you move through this Thursday morning, remember that blessings often come disguised as ordinary moments. A conversation, an unexpected opportunity, a word of encouragement, a new relationship, restored peace within your family, renewed health, or fresh strength for another day may all be evidence of God's loving hand. We sometimes expect blessings to arrive in dramatic ways while overlooking the countless daily mercies surrounding us. The ability to breathe, to love, to forgive, to hope, and to believe are gifts that cannot be measured by earthly standards. Gratitude opens our eyes to see what God has already provided. God never promised a life without challenges, but he promised his presence in every challenge. When storms arise, he becomes your shelter. When fear whispers, he speaks peace to your heart. When weakness overwhelms you, his strength becomes sufficient. The greatest blessing is not merely receiving everything you ask for. It is knowing that God himself walks beside you through every season. His presence transforms valleys into places of growth and mountains into places of victory. Do not underestimate what God can accomplish through one surrendered life. Throughout history, he has used ordinary men and women to accomplish extraordinary purposes. He delights in taking what the world considers insignificant and revealing his glory through it. If you feel unnoticed today, remember that David was once a shepherd before becoming a king. Joseph was forgotten in prison before standing in the palace. Ruth was a widow before becoming part of God's greater story. Their circumstances changed because God's purposes were greater than their present conditions. The same God who guided them continues to guide those who trust him today. Faith does not ignore reality. Faith chooses to believe that God is greater than reality's limitations. Faith says that even when the doctor gives a difficult report, God remains sovereign. Faith says that even when finances become uncertain, the Lord is still the provider. Faith says that even when relationships become strained, God is able to restore what seems broken beyond repair. Faith refuses to surrender to despair because it rests in the character of an unchanging God. Wake up every morning with expectancy rather than anxiety. Tell yourself that today God can open doors you never imagined. Today he can heal wounded hearts. Today he can provide unexpected answers. Today he can restore hope where discouragement has lived for years. Today he can lead you into opportunities prepared long before you ever recognize them. Your future is not controlled by fear, but by the faithful hands of the one who holds all things together. Make a decision today to guard your heart against negativity. Refuse to allow bitterness, envy, resentment, or fear to dominate your thoughts. Fill your mind with God's truth. Speak words that build faith instead of feeding doubt. Encourage those around you. Extend kindness even when it is not returned. Forgive as you have been forgiven. Love because God first loved you. The more your heart reflects His character, the more His peace fills every area of your life. Remember that God's abundant blessings are not limited to material possessions. His richest blessings include wisdom for difficult decisions, courage during trials, joy in the middle of sorrow, hope when everything appears uncertain, strength for every battle, forgiveness for every repentant heart, and eternal peace found through trusting Him. These treasures cannot be stolen by circumstances because they come directly from the heart of God. As this Thursday unfolds, walk forward with confidence, not because you know what every hour will bring, but because you know the one who holds every hour in His hands. His favor surrounds those who seek Him. His goodness follows those who trust Him. His promises remain secure through every changing season of life. Whatever you face today, you do not face it alone. The God who awakened you this morning is already preparing blessings you cannot yet see, opening doors you cannot yet imagine, strengthening you for every challenge ahead, and reminding you that His love, His mercy, His grace, and His unfailing favor will never leave you. Ladies and gentlemen, every new morning is a fresh reminder that God has not forgotten you. Before your eyes opened today, His hand was already upon your life. While you were asleep, He watched over you with perfect love and unfailing care. The fact that you have awakened this Thursday is not merely another day added to the calendar. It is evidence of God's mercy, His patience, and His purpose for your life. Every sunrise declares that the Lord is faithful, and every breath you take is proof that His grace continues to sustain you. No matter how difficult yesterday may have been, today begins with a clean opportunity to trust Him again. Too often we allow the disappointments of yesterday to steal the joy of today. We wake up remembering our failures, our fears, our unanswered prayers, and our unfinished battles. The enemy wants you to carry yesterday's burdens into today's blessings because he knows that a discouraged heart struggles to see what God is doing. But the Lord invites you to leave the past in His hands and embrace the new mercy He has prepared for this morning. His compassion has not run out. His promises have not expired. His power has not diminished. The God who helped you before is the same God who walks beside you today. Trusting God's faithfulness means believing His character, even when your circumstances seem uncertain. There will be mornings when the sky appears cloudy, when your heart feels heavy, and when the answers you long for have not yet arrived. Yet God's faithfulness has never depended on the condition of your circumstances. His faithfulness remains constant whether you are standing on the mountaintop or walking through the deepest valley. He is worthy of your trust because He has never abandoned those who place their hope in Him. Think about how many times God has already carried you through situations that once seemed impossible. There were seasons when you wondered if you would survive. Yet, here you are today. There were prayers you thought would never be answered. Yet God made a way in His own perfect timing. There were moments when you felt completely alone. But looking back, you can now see that His hand was guiding every step. His past faithfulness becomes the foundation for today's confidence. If He was faithful yesterday, He will be faithful today. If He provided before, He will provide again. The world encourages people to place their confidence in money, achievements, relationships, or human abilities. But everything in this world can change in a moment. Wealth can disappear. Positions can be lost. People may disappoint us. Circumstances can suddenly shift. God's faithfulness, however, is unshakable. He remains the solid foundation when everything else around us seems uncertain. That is why those who build their lives upon Him discover a peace that the world cannot offer and cannot take away. Beginning your day by trusting God also means surrendering your plans into His hands. We often try to control every detail of our lives, because uncertainty makes us uncomfortable. Yet the Lord asks us to release our worries and place them before Him. He already knows every conversation you will have today, every decision you must make, every challenge you will face, and every opportunity waiting around the corner. Nothing will surprise Him because He is already present in every moment of your future. When you understand this truth, anxiety begins to lose its grip, and faith begins to grow stronger. Trust is demonstrated not only by what we say, but by how we live. When difficulties arise, will you panic or pray? When doors seem closed, will you complain or continue believing? When delays come, will you lose hope or remain patient? Every challenge becomes an opportunity to deepen your confidence in God's faithfulness. Faith is not pretending that problems do not exist. Faith is believing that God is greater than every problem you will ever face. There is tremendous peace that comes from knowing your life is in God's hands. You no longer have to carry every burden by yourself. You do not have to solve every problem with your own wisdom or strength. The Lord invites you to lean upon Him completely. His wisdom never fails. His strength never grows weak. His love never changes. As you trust Him more deeply, your heart becomes less controlled by fear and more filled with hope. Each morning also presents a choice. You can begin the day expecting disappointment, or you can begin expecting God's goodness. You can allow fear to shape your attitude, or you can let faith become your guide. Those who expect God to work are often the first to recognize His blessings. They notice His provision in ordinary moments. They see His guidance in unexpected opportunities. They recognize His protection in situations they never fully understood. A heart that trusts God remains alert to His presence throughout the day. Gratitude naturally grows wherever trust is planted. When you truly believe that God is faithful, you begin thanking Him before you even see the answer. You thank Him because you know He is already working behind the scenes. You praise Him not because every problem has disappeared, but because His promises remain dependable. Gratitude shifts your focus away from what is missing and directs your attention toward the countless ways God has already demonstrated His love. As you move through this day, remind yourself again and again that your confidence rests not in your own ability, but in the unchanging character of God. His mercy woke you this morning. His grace will sustain you throughout the day. His wisdom will guide your decisions. His strength will carry you through every challenge. His peace will guard your heart when uncertainty arises. Every step you take can be taken with confidence, because the faithful God who gave you this new morning has already gone before you, preparing the path and surrounding your life with His constant presence and unfailing love. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest truths you can embrace is that God delights in blessing His children. His heart is not filled with reluctance toward those who seek Him. It is filled with love, compassion, and generosity. Every good and perfect gift comes from Him. His blessings are not limited by the economy, by the opinions of people, or by the circumstances surrounding your life. They flow from His unlimited power and His perfect wisdom. When you wake up each morning believing that God's favor is upon you, you begin to walk with a confidence that cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks. You understand that your future is not determined by luck or chance, but by the loving hand of your Heavenly Father. God's favor is one of the most precious gifts He gives to those who trust Him. Favor is His divine kindness, working on your behalf in ways that human effort alone could never accomplish. There are moments when doors open that no amount of education, experience, or influence could have opened. There are opportunities that arrive unexpectedly, relationships that become life-changing, and answers that appear exactly when they are needed most. These moments remind us that God's hand is actively involved in the lives of those who depend on Him. His favor is not something that can be purchased, earned, or manipulated. It is an expression of His grace poured out upon hearts that seek Him with humility and faith. Sometimes people misunderstand what God's blessings truly are. They imagine that blessings only appear in the form of financial prosperity or material possessions. While God certainly provides for the needs of His people, His richest blessings go far beyond earthly wealth. A peaceful heart in the middle of life's storms is a blessing. Wisdom that helps you make the right decisions is a blessing. A restored relationship A healed heart, renewed strength, growing faith, and the assurance of God's presence are treasures that no amount of money can ever buy. The greatest blessing is not having everything you want, but knowing that you have the Lord walking beside you every step of the way. There will be seasons when God's favor may not look the way you expected. Sometimes His favor protects you by closing a door that you desperately wanted to walk through. At first, disappointment may fill your heart because you cannot understand why things did not happen according to your plans. Yet months or years later, you may look back and realize that God's closed door was actually an act of mercy. He was protecting you from unnecessary pain or preparing something far greater than you could have imagined. His wisdom always sees beyond the limits of human understanding. God's blessings often arrive quietly. They are found in the strength to face another day, the courage to keep believing, the peace that settles your anxious thoughts, and the hope that rises again after disappointment. They are seen in the people God places in your life to encourage you, the opportunities He provides at just the right moment, and the countless dangers He protects you from without your even knowing. Every heartbeat, every sunrise, every answered prayer, and every fresh opportunity is evidence that His goodness continues to surround your life. Walking in God's favor also requires a heart that remains faithful during difficult seasons. It is easy to praise God when everything is going well, but genuine faith continues to trust Him when the path becomes difficult. The Lord often develops our character before He expands our opportunities. He teaches patience before promotion. He builds humility before honor. He strengthens faith before breakthrough. Every season has a purpose in God's plan, even those that seem painful. The trials you experience today may be preparing you for blessings you are not yet ready to receive. The world constantly encourages people to depend entirely upon themselves. It celebrates self-sufficiency and personal achievement. Yet the believer understands that true success begins with dependence upon God. Every ability you possess, every opportunity you receive, and every victory you experience ultimately comes from His gracious hand. Recognizing this truth keeps pride from taking root in your heart. It reminds you to give thanks instead of taking credit and to remain humble, regardless of how greatly God blesses your life. Do not compare your journey with someone else's. God's favor is personal, and His plans are unique for every individual. Someone else's blessing does not diminish what God has prepared for you. He knows exactly what you need, exactly when you need it, and exactly how His purpose will unfold in your life. Comparison steals joy because it causes you to overlook the blessings already surrounding you. Instead of focusing on what others have received, celebrate God's faithfulness in your own journey and trust that His timing is always perfect. As you walk through this day, expect God to move in ways you cannot predict. He may answer a prayer you have carried for years. He may provide unexpected wisdom for an important decision. He may place someone in your path whose encouragement changes your perspective. He may give you strength you did not know you possessed, or peace that quiets every anxious thought. His favor is not confined to extraordinary miracles. It is present in both the remarkable and the ordinary moments of daily life. Choose to live each day with open eyes and a grateful heart. Refuse to let discouragement blind you to God's goodness. Every challenge is another opportunity to witness His faithfulness. Every obstacle becomes another chance for Him to demonstrate His power. Every delay allows Him to reveal His perfect timing. Walk confidently knowing that the God who created the heavens and the earth is also directing your steps. His abundant blessings are already flowing into your life in ways seen and unseen. His favor surrounds you like a shield. His wisdom guides every decision. His peace guards your heart. His strength upholds you in every trial, and His unfailing love remains the greatest blessing you will ever receive. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the hardest lessons in the Christian life is learning to wait on God with confidence instead of frustration. We live in a world that celebrates speed. We want immediate answers, instant results, and quick solutions. We have become accustomed to receiving what we want with the touch of a button, and sometimes we unconsciously expect God to work according to our schedule. But the Lord does not operate by human timetables. He works according to his perfect wisdom, his perfect knowledge, and his perfect timing. What may seem like a delay to us is often God preparing something far greater than we can presently understand. Waiting can test every part of our faith. It is easy to trust God when prayers are answered quickly, but true faith continues to believe when heaven seems quiet. There are seasons when you pray day after day and nothing appears to change. You ask God for direction, healing, provision, or restoration, yet the answer seems delayed. During those moments, discouragement may whisper that God has forgotten you. Doubt may try to convince you that your prayers are going unheard. But never allow silence to make you question God's presence. The God who hears every whispered prayer is still listening, even when you cannot immediately see his hand at work. God's delays are never meaningless. Every waiting season has a divine purpose. Sometimes he is preparing the blessing before he delivers it. Other times he is preparing you to receive the blessing wisely. There are moments when the greatest work God is doing is not around you, but within you. He is strengthening your character, deepening your faith, teaching you patience, and drawing you into a closer relationship with him. These spiritual treasures often become more valuable than the answers you originally requested. Think of a farmer who plants seeds in the ground. After planting, he does not return the next morning expecting a full harvest. He understands that growth requires time. Beneath the surface, where no human eye can see, roots are forming, life is developing, and the process is unfolding exactly as it should. In much the same way, God's work often happens beneath the surface of your circumstances. You may not see visible progress, but heaven is never inactive. While you wait, God is arranging events, opening future opportunities, removing unseen obstacles, and preparing the right moment for his plan to unfold. Many people become impatient because they focus only on what has not happened yet. They spend so much energy watching the clock that they fail to notice what God is already doing. Waiting does not mean doing nothing. It means continuing to trust, continuing to pray, continuing to obey, and continuing to serve while believing that God's promises remain true. Every day of faithful obedience matters. Every act of kindness, every prayer offered in faith, every moment of worship, and every decision to honor God during the waiting season is shaping the person he is calling you to become. It is important to remember that God sees the entire picture while we see only a small portion of it. We often pray based on what we know today, but God answers according to what he knows about tomorrow. He sees dangers you cannot see. He knows opportunities you have not yet discovered. He understands how one decision today will affect your future years from now. Because of his perfect knowledge, his timing is never early and never late. It arrives exactly when it will accomplish his greatest purpose. Sometimes the answer God gives is different from the answer we expected. We may ask him to remove a difficulty immediately, while he chooses to give us strength to endure it. We may pray for an open door while he lovingly closes it because he has something far better ahead. Looking back over your life, you may already recognize moments when unanswered prayers became unexpected blessings. What once felt like disappointment later revealed itself as God's protection and wisdom. His perspective is always greater than ours. Waiting also teaches us dependence upon God rather than dependence upon ourselves. When everything happens according to our own plans, it becomes easy to rely on our own abilities. But seasons of waiting remind us that our hope rests not in our strength, intelligence, or resources, but in the Lord alone. He invites us to trust his heart even when we cannot fully understand his ways. This kind of trust brings a peace that remains steady even when circumstances remain uncertain. Do not allow comparison to rob you of your confidence during your waiting season. You may see others receiving the very blessings you have been praying for. It may seem as though their prayers are answered while yours remain unanswered. But God's plan for your life is unique. He is not writing identical stories for every person. Your journey has its own purpose, its own timing, and its own testimony. The blessing that comes at the right time will always be better than one received too early. As you continue walking with God, refuse to measure his faithfulness by the speed of his answers. Measure his faithfulness by his unchanging character. He has never broken a promise. He has never abandoned those who seek him. He has never stopped working for the good of those who place their trust in him. Even when you cannot trace his hand, you can trust his heart. Every prayer you have offered has been heard. Every tear has been noticed. Every moment of faith has eternal value. The God who began a good work in your life is still working today, and in his perfect time he will reveal blessings, open doors, answer prayers, fulfill his promises, and demonstrate that every season of waiting was preparing you for something greater than you ever imagined. Ladies and gentlemen, every day presents a choice that shapes the direction of our lives. We can allow fear to control our thoughts, or we can choose to walk by faith. Fear and faith cannot rule the heart at the same time. Fear magnifies problems until they seem impossible, while faith magnifies God until every problem is placed in its proper perspective. The circumstances around you may remain the same for a season, but the way you respond to those circumstances determines whether you live in anxiety or in confidence. God has never called his children to be prisoners of fear. He calls them to trust him completely. Believing that his power is greater than every obstacle they will ever face, fear often begins with unanswered questions. We wonder what tomorrow will bring, whether our needs will be met, whether our loved ones will be protected, or whether the challenges before us are simply too great to overcome. The human mind naturally imagines worst-case scenarios, and before long, worry begins to steal our peace. But God never intended for his people to carry the weight of tomorrow on their shoulders. He invites us to place every concern into his hands, because he already knows the future in perfect detail. Nothing that surprises you has ever surprised him. Every event, every challenge, and every opportunity is already known by the one who holds all things together. Faith is not pretending that difficulties do not exist. Faith does not deny pain, hardship, or uncertainty. Instead, faith acknowledges those realities while declaring that God is greater than them all. It looks beyond the visible circumstances and fixes its attention on the unchanging character of the Lord. When you walk by faith, you are not saying that life is easy. You are saying that God is faithful. You are declaring that no matter how dark the valley becomes, his presence will never leave you. You are choosing to believe that his promises remain true, even when your emotions try to convince you otherwise. There will be moments when life tests your confidence. A difficult medical report, financial pressure, broken relationships, unexpected disappointments, or seasons of loss can shake even the strongest believer. During those times, fear will whisper that there is no hope. It will tell you that your situation is beyond repair. It will encourage you to focus only on what you have lost instead of what God is still able to do. But faith speaks with a different voice. Faith reminds you that the God who created the heavens and the earth has not lost his power. The Lord who parted the sea, provided for his people in the wilderness, and brought light into us is still the same today. His strength has not diminished, and his ability to perform miracles has never changed. Walking by faith also requires us to trust God's wisdom above our own understanding. There are many times when his plans do not make immediate sense. He may lead you down a path you never expected, or ask you to wait longer than you desired. In those moments, it becomes tempting to rely solely on human reasoning. Yet God's perspective is infinitely greater than ours. He sees the end from the beginning. He understands every detail that remains hidden from our view. When we surrender our understanding to him, we discover that his way always leads to something better than anything we could have planned for ourselves. Faith grows stronger every time it is exercised. Just as muscles become stronger through resistance, faith becomes stronger through challenges. If life were always easy, we would never learn to depend completely upon God. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to witness his faithfulness. Every delay becomes a lesson in patience. Every hardship becomes a chance to discover his sustaining grace. The very trials that seem determined to weaken you often become the tools God uses to strengthen your trust and deepen your relationship with him. One of the greatest dangers is allowing fear to make your decisions. Fear encourages people to remain where it feels safe rather than stepping into the opportunities God provides. It tells you